Let's go to Ty Cobb now, the former Trump White House lawyer. Ty, appreciate you. So let's start with where we are tonight. Trump finds out he is formally a target. Will he be charged in days, or do you think this takes longer? Or is there any question it happens?
I think he could be charged as early as Thursday, and not likely later than Monday.
All right, well, that's a very tight window. So now let's talk about charged with what? What do you think he will be charged with here, Ty?
There are a variety of ways to charge this that all boil down to the same conduct. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct or an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, such as the Pence proceeding, and even the state certifications. Potential obstruction of justice for interference with witnesses. We've heard suggestions over time that some witnesses may have lied to the special counsel grand jury. There's an outside chance, and I think it's the meatiest of the charges, at least to the true Trump haters. There's an outside chance that he could be charged with giving aid and comfort to the insurrectionists. I don't think he can be charged with incitement, by the way, although that's out there and some people are arguing it. But I do believe he could be charged with aid and comfort to the insurrectionists as a result of his 3 hours of inaction and the intervening message calling Pence a coward.
Well, it's interesting, as you say, that that's possible outside chance of that one as opposed to the others that you appeared more clear on. Now, let me ask you about the significance of the target letter in one other specific way, Ty, which is Trump's team, they say that they were surprised to get it, okay? Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. That's what they're saying. But then they started going around to see if anybody else got them. And we found out today that John Eastman says he did not get one, that Rudy Giuliani did not get one. What does this mean?
I don't think it means much, unlike a lot of people. The reality is, they've been in contact with Eastman and his lawyer for some time. They've been in contact with Rudy and his lawyer. Remember, just last week he visited with them, I think, for 2 days. They can have those conversations orally, to the extent that those people actually are targets. Target letters are not required, and frankly, they typically go out in cases such as this to people who the government is confident will not flee. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock in the fact that not everybody has received a target letter, because unlike Trump, many of the other people that have been involved have made efforts at least to discuss their situation with the Justice Department and been in contact with the department.
All right, which is interesting that your perspective on that. So then the bottom line is you've talked about the significance of the Mar-a-Lago documents case, right? That if convicted, and I know there's questions on timing and how long gets drawn out, just put all that aside for a second. But right, essentially for someone his age, a conviction there is a life sentence. So he already is aware of that possibility. Do you think this indictment is more serious, more scary for him than anything else, or not?
So I've got a convoluted answer, I'm sorry to say, but no, but only because of his narcissism. He sees any insult as equal to any other insult. These are all things that just haunt him, and he's ready to fight back on all fronts. It should concern him more, because it will be a legacy-defining decision far greater than the Mar-a-Lago offenses. This is one of the great constitutional insults of our time. The country owes it to itself to reassert the rule of law and demonstrate that at least the vision of America is something we're willing to protect and hopefully deter through punishment of Trump if he is convicted from ever happening again.
Ty Cobb, thank you very much. I appreciate your perspective. And out front now, Ryan Goodman is here with me, our co-editor-in-chief of Just Security, the former special counsel of the Defense Department. Karen Friedman Agnifilo, the former federal prosecutor, and our legal analyst, Van Jones, former special advisor to President Obama, and Stephanie Grisham, former Trump White House press secretary, who has spoken with federal prosecutors investigating this particular case. So all thank you. Ryan, let me start with you. Listening to what Ty had to say, interesting, his view here is that just because others didn't get a target letter, he does not think that that is necessarily significant to indicate anything here. What do you think?
I had the same thought process that he had about Giuliani, that Giuliani just spent 2 days with the prosecutors in which if he were a target, they would have known it by then, and they would have communicated it or could have communicated it to him. So the fact that he didn't get a formal letter at this stage doesn't necessarily mean much of anything. Eastman would maybe be a little bit more of a surprise if it means their absence of a target letter suggests an absence of an indictment coming
Right,
their way.
which it may or may not.
May or may not. There are others who have suggested that the Special Counsel Smith should make this very narrow with Trump right away, and then he can bring other individuals indicted later, and that could be what's going on.
Karen, conservative retired federal judge Michael Ludwig, so conservative judge, he testified before the January 6th committee. He said of Trump, shared this statement with our Jamie Gangel, he has dared, taunted, provoked, and goaded DOJ to prosecute him for his offenses relating to January 6th for 2.5 years. The former president has left Jack Smith no choice but to bring charges lest the former president make a mockery of the Constitution of the United States and the rule of law. Similar point to what Ty was just making. Is this the situation, though, that the special counsel really had no choice?
Well, I think that in addition to this, don't forget they also prosecuted, 1,000 people for the events of January 6th.
We're serving serious prison time.
Exactly, and Trump is the mastermind. He's the general, right, who commanded these troops. And so to not charge him, I think that more than anything is why Jack Smith had no choice but to charge him. Getting goaded by a defendant, that you have to let that roll off of you. Either the evidence is there or it's not. And clearly the evidence is here, and you go for the big guy, the guy who commanded the violence.
Stephanie, it's interesting, Ty was just saying that for Trump, all things are the same, right? That the fact that this charges here would be truly historical in their context, right? But regarding the Constitution, the rule of law, to him is no different than the documents case. But I am curious as to whether you think he will continue to claim he didn't know he lost the election, given that no one with actually, information and facts could make any such claim with a straight face, and given that everyone around him has testified that they told him that he lost the election. Do you think he believes he can still claim, oh, but I just didn't know, so I just didn't have the intent. I really thought I won, guys?
Yeah, there's not much I can guarantee in life, but I can guarantee he will continue to say that he lost, or continue to say that he won, knowing that very well that he lost. He has to double down, triple down, and quadruple down as usual because his base believes him and he needs that support. He needs to fundraise off of it, but also, if you just think about it from a legal perspective, if he admits suddenly that he knew that he lost, I think it'd get him in a whole lot of trouble. So in order to save himself from the legal woes, I think he'll continue, but he will never admit that he lost, ever.
Look, I just think, it's about time. The other cases are important cases, but, the porn star stuff probably hurt his family more than hurt anybody else. Stole some documents. There's no proof he sold them to North Korea. But he was the cheerleader for insurrection. And he still just walking around giving speeches, acting like everything's just fine. That is an offense to the American people.
And giving speeches that would indicate he would do the same thing
again,
right?
And would pardon people and the whole deal. So I just think finally we're getting down to the real stuff here. This is why he's going to go down in history books as one of the worst presidents, if not the worst ever, as a traitor to his own country.